Today for our daily cancellation, we're going to be canceling this person. Her name is Evie Kwong. She works for the Toronto Star. She was recently horribly offended by some of the offerings at a pop-up broth bar inside of an athletic apparel store in Toronto. Of course, many questions are immediately raised about why there's such a thing as a broth bar and what that is exactly and why it's inside of an athletic apparel store and how any human could possibly manage to be offended by broth. We may be able to answer some of those questions in due course as we proceed. But first, to Evie Kwong's tweets. She says, this is a long tweet thread as she goes on about it. She says, a white-owned trendy spot on Ossington is selling bone broth across from Golden Turtle Pho, also sexualizing jerk sauce and pho hot sauce and making superfood dumplings for profit. Y'all, I'm sick. The cultures they are taking from literally fight daily for legitimacy. The wellness cleansing of the food, the lack of historical understanding, and the number of followers is alarming. I'm not trying to knock small businesses, and it is Tryna, by the way, Tryna. I'm not trying to knock small businesses, but damn, this one hurt. I legit threw out my Chinese food lunches because white kids would make fun of it all day. I bought into Pizza Day and dry-ass turkey burgers. So did many others. And now you're taking our culture and selling it? And people think it's legit? Damn. It took hella unlearning and relearning to love my identity to get over that. Don't come at me with organic grass-fed immunity dumplings. It's Zhao Long Bao. I have no idea if I pronounced that correctly. Surely if I did not, I am racist. Anyway, she continues, and while you're here, support your local Chinatown, Little India, Little Jamaica, Little Tibet, Koreatown, J-Town, and spots our aunties and uncles opened, moving here to support their families. Know that they've had to assimilate too. Okay. A lot of pride. That was hard. First of all, this is someone who works in the media. This is, I guess, a journalist or something. And that's how she writes. Words like Tryna, hella. That's a problem. But to translate, Kwong is upset that this business is selling a few traditionally Asian food products. Somehow the existence of bone broth cooked by someone who is not Asian has caused her to flash back to some teasing she received in grade school. And because she has this weird emotional association between broth and bullying, she believes that the business that produced the broth should be destroyed. It is, after all, cultural appropriation, she says. Now, something tells me, and I could be wrong, but I don't think I am. Something tells me that Miss Kwong has never once complained about restaurants run by Asians selling hamburgers or pizza. And that's a problem because if we're going to play this game, then it must be played consistently and equally. It never is. You never hear anyone complain about non-white people selling products that, quote, belong to white people, which, objectively speaking, in a vacuum is fine because nothing belongs to white people as a group, but also nothing belongs to any other group or race or ethnicity or culture as a group. Asians don't own broth. They don't own any Asian food. I got news for you. Individual items of food can be owned, but entire types of food cannot be owned. IHOP owns the pancakes it makes, but who owns pancakes in general? What group lays claim to the concept of pancakes? Answer, none, no group. Pancakes are the property of the whole human race, and what a glorious thing that is. And guess what? What we call Asian food is also the property of the whole human race. Anyone can make it. Anyone can eat it. Anyone can sell it. So Evie Kwong, you don't own Asian food. I own it just as much as you do. Guess what? I am just as much as you allowed to make it, sell it, eat it. I have just as much of a claim to it as you do. That's the way it goes. In fact, the cultural appropriation charge is never as absurd as it is in relation to cuisine, because cuisine especially cannot be owned by any group of people, as there's probably no dish you could possibly name which originates entirely with one group and has remained unchanged and uninfluenced for centuries. There may be some dishes like that, but they're few and far between. Almost all foods and dishes are a fusion of different influences and have changed and been adapted and adopted over time. I'm no historian of pho, but as far as I'm aware, pho itself has very heavy French influences. This is a fact overlooked by Ms. Kwong. These kinds of facts are always overlooked by the people who rail against cultural appropriation. Now, I have to add one other thing. It's not just Evie Kwong getting canceled today. I must also cancel the business that she herself canceled. I'm afraid I have to jump in with the pitchfork mob, but only because the business caved to the pitchfork mob. After the outrage sparked by Kwong's psychotic tweets, the business called Ripe Nutrition posted on Instagram the following message from its founder. This is what they said. Over the course of the past 48 hours, it has come to my attention as the founder of Ripe Nutrition that I've made some mistakes, big ones. It was important to me to take a moment to collect my thoughts and decide how to best address this situation. First, I want to thank each and every person who took the time to bring this to my attention, something that I now realize should have never been their burden to bear. It is not the responsibility of people of color to educate me, a white woman, on why cultural appropriation isn't acceptable. The responsibility is mine and mine alone. Anyone who has spoken out about this should never have had to do this work, and I apologize for my insensitivity and ignorance as the founder of Ripe Nutrition. Oh, dear God. We should note that in spite of this groveling apology, the business was still kicked out of its location in the apparel store. So it was still shut down. This is the way it always goes, of course. The apologies never make a difference. They never have the effect that the apologizer hopes for and intends. Never. It doesn't matter. They're not going to go any easier on you just because you apologize. And that's why everyone must stop apologizing. I am at the point where people who do apologize lose all sympathy from me. If you're going to cave and kowtow and prostrate yourself at the behest of these lunatics, then I am not going to defend you. Why should I bother defending your dignity and honor if you're just going to set it on fire willingly anyway? I mean, burden to bear? The owner of this company actually just said that her broth was somehow an emotional burden that some in the public had to bear, as if there were people up late at night tossing and turning, distraught because some white lady was selling broth in an apparel store in Toronto. If any such person actually exists, which I doubt, if there's actually any person who is at all traumatized by this broth, then they are mentally ill and should be committed to an asylum. Anyone who has ever felt any kind of authentic distress because the, quote, wrong race of person was cooking a certain food is not only a bigot, but a lunatic. And that's exactly what you should say to them when they try to cancel you. These lunatic bigots will never stop, will never slow down, so long as there are limp, spineless, jellyfish-like creatures floating around out there, such as the owner of Ripe Nutrition, who can so easily be manipulated and dominated. Have some damn self-respect. Grow a spine. Stand up for yourself. How about issuing a statement on your little Instagram account saying, hey, guess what? I'm not sorry. It's broth. Get over it, you insane babies. Get over yourself. How about that for a statement? So everyone who complains about cultural appropriation is canceled. And everyone who emboldens and encourages and validates the complainers is also canceled. Canceled, canceled, canceled. Well, I hope you enjoyed that clip from the Matt Walsh Show. If you did, go ahead and hit that subscribe button right down there so you can stay up to date on all of our future content.